Okay. We continue the introduction of Rabbi Chelouche to his book to understand his approach to Torah and to leadership. So he says this. Yesterday we spoke about, I read his discussion of uniting the Hachamim, uniting the rabbis together to bring all forces in the nation. From all walks of life, people have to support the idea of how to make the world better and how to make the society healthier. And he speaks about kiruv levavot, meaning that each side has to see the positive in the other side. Not to say, I'm right and you're wrong, but I'll try to bring you closer to me, but rather to be able to see the qualities of each other. And he says that if the rabbis would be able to get together, which is not impossible, and create a bedin, then they will be able to address the real problems that face the nation. He also says this, וזאת לדעת, כי חייבת להיות מהפכה רוחנית לתיקון החברה, לאישור המידות ולשיבה על מקורות היהדות. We must have a spiritual revolution to heal society, to pursue moral values, and to return to the sources of Judaism. המהפכה החומרית שהתבטאה בהקמת המדינה ובניינה ללא מהפכה רוחנית סופה להתמוטט. If we only base ourselves on the material revolution which came with the independence of the state of Israel, but without the spiritual basis, this is going to collapse. And interestingly enough, what is happening today in Israel is that a lot of people who used to define themselves as secular or non-religious are now looking into connecting to the sources of Judaism. Not necessarily to become, what people call hozer b'tshuva, more religious. No, they just want to learn more about Judaism. They want to know their roots, because one of the things that the Zionist movement, not all of them, the Zionist movement, these parts that came from Eastern Europe, who had some kind of aversion to Judaism, because the rabbis were very strict, so they rebelled against them. They say we want to cut off completely from Judaism, and we establish a new culture based on European values and classic literature. So the people like Ben Gurion, all that, he liked the Tanakh, he loved Tanakh, but Tanakh for him was a sort of a moral code, what they called Musar HaNevi'im, but anything after Tanakh was not part of his literature. And this was not healthy, because we connect to our roots, to history, whatever. In each and every generation, different authors wrote very important things that we connect to them. You have Midrash, Mishnah, Gemara, Kabbalah, commentaries on the Torah. All these things are part of our heritage, and it makes us richer and stronger when we know that. For example, when we talk about the Jews of Spain, and you realize Jews lived in Spain close to 1,000 years, and they created amazing literature, poetry, on medicine, commentary of Torah, philosophy, right? So when you look at the Spanish people today, we know we had some connection in the past. We went through their land, we did what we did, now we're a strong sovereign nation. But if I would take all this spirit of Spain, it's like, okay, I'm not interested in what was written there, then I leave a gaping hole in the history of the Jewish people. So, he says, גם ממלכות גדולות נעלמו מהאופק כתוצאה מניוון מוסרי וקלקול חברתי. Even great empires disappeared because they didn't have the moral backbone and the spiritual guidance. He says we have to have the Zionist ideal cannot survive on Zionism alone. And we see it today where the extreme left wing in Israel says, so it doesn't. Some people say it doesn't make a difference if you live in Israel or you live abroad. Some people say, well, all we need is the little, strip, what is called the Tel Aviv strip, Retzoat Tel Aviv, they call it, or Medinat Tel Aviv. Just give us the state of Tel Aviv. The rest of the land, we don't care about. They call it the Ashtahim, the territories, the settlement. But if you go there, you realize that we are as connected to this land and more than the Palestinians are. But we see our connection there because we know the Tanakh, we know the history. So yes, of course we want peace, but we know the values that we have there. And this really is what held people together, the Jews, throughout generation, throughout the history, that they knew that they have this kind of continuity in history. It says, "Hayavet liot mapicha ruhanit ba'am hazeh." It says, how do we do that? How do you do this spiritual revolution? הסברה נרחבת של כל הכוחות הבריאים והנבונים שבאומה, לשינוי ערכים יסודי המושתת על ייחודנו הלאומי, על עברנו המפואר ועל עתידנו המקווה בארץ הנפלאה הזאת. We have to have broad campaign of explaining and learning all the healthy and wise powers within our nation. And when he says that, he means religious and secular. You combine both and have those moral values that use our national uniqueness. Am Israel stands apart as a nation that would always come together, no matter where we were. People always got together to help each other. We're also the only nation who were able to survive as a nation for 2,000 years of diaspora. We never completely assimilated. He says we have a glorious past and we have a wonderful future in this land. So, and he says what he does on his part is hakirot ala psika el-chadid ve'itpatchuta. He says that when you add another layer to the studies that were done before you, then you create a Torah which is contemporary and answers the needs of the generation. And he says, וכך היא דרכו של מחבר מחדש, שאינו מסתפק בהעתקת דברי חכמים אחרים. He says, there are many authors that just, what they write is an anthology of what the previous authors said. They wrote, A, B, C. He says, this rabbi said A, this rabbi said B, this rabbi said C. Okay, so what do you say? What is your decision? He said, he doesn't write anything. He says, the problem is that רוב הקוראים בכל הדורות, ובייחוד בדורנו דור האנציקלופדיות, מעדיפים לסמוך על המאספים והמסכמים. He says, our generation became the generation of encyclopedias. So you don't have to learn yourself, you just check out the encyclopedia. I wrote that before Google, before Wikipedia. But Wikipedia is really, it's a big problem for people. Because on one hand, it's good that you have all information at your fingertips, right? You want to know the ingredients of a certain thing, the history of it, you could just Google it, Wikipedia, and you find, but you don't have the, people don't dedicate the effort to do thorough research. So it's good that you have the encyclopedia as an appetizer. So where you open it up, you say, okay, I need to look at ABC, some concept, but it shouldn't end there. It shouldn't be that all your knowledge is gleaned from the encyclopedia, right? Or in halakha, the anthologies of for example, Yalkut Yosef, the book of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, is an encyclopedia of halakha. Mostly it's a gathering of many opinions. It's his own opinion, but now people don't look at the source of halakha. They go directly to this book. Okay, I know what to do. But what if there are different customs? What if we didn't take into consideration, for example, certain emotions? Then we're lacking depth of halakha. It says, but it says we have to be grateful to those those who are innovative, who do write new things, because they provide work for the authors of the encyclopedias. The authors of the encyclopedias gather what the authors wrote. He says, "Ilulei hatabach lo haya lameltzar ma lagish." You have when you sit at the restaurant. You get an interesting analogy. You sit in the restaurant and you tip the waiter, and you thank the waiter for his service. But really, you have to thank the chef, because he's the one who cooked the meal. So some people sometimes call the chef to the table to thank him for a special meal. So he says, or you have the people who do research and create medicine, and then you have the pharmacist who sort of serves it to you. So you need both, but the main work, the real work, is done by the people who do research, by the people who cook the food, by the people who write this innovative works of halakha. So, for example, we're now Be'erev Shavuot. We're going to have 2 days of Yom Tov, Sunday and Monday. Few rabbis were willing to touch that. Rabbi Chelouche touched this subject. He said, second Yom Tov has to go. But in order to let go of Yom Tov Sheni, we have to create the rabbinical court, which will decide that and everybody will accept. But at least he pushed in this direction. Other things that he didn't need a bedin to do, he said, for example, he is the only one that I know of that wrote openly that in the case that a woman cannot conceive because she waits to go to the mikveh and she waits 14 days, and because of that she misses the period of ovulation, there is called the halachic sterility or halachic infertility. It's very common in Israel. Women wait and wait and wait, and once they go to the mikveh, their opportune days have already passed. So they go to rabbis, to doctors, and they say they give them hormonal treatment, which is not healthy, which is even dangerous. Rabbi Chelouche was the only one who said that in those cases, the woman could count less days, and he gives a specific way to do it, but she could go to the mikveh earlier, 2 or 3 days earlier, which is, nobody ever says that. Why does he say that? Because he cares about people, this is a sort of a hidush, it's innovative, but it shows that you have the courage to take care of the real problems. And he says, don't wonder how I have this courage to disagree with the previous generation, especially when there's a dispute between the previous rabbi. Because he quotes here Rabbi Tzhak Di Leon, who wrote in the name of Rabbi Shlomo Almoli in his commentary on Rambam. He says, אפשר שידעו האחרונים וישיגו יותר מהראשונים משתי בחינות. Despite the fact that in the Orthodox community they always say, we don't know as much as the early rabbis. They always have this sense, the previous generations knew much more. So there is a possibility for a later author to know more than the earlier one. How? First, אפשר שיש מהאחרונים שלקח לעצמו לעיין בדרוש אחד ויעמיק בו. In some cases, there you have an author of a later generation that maybe is not as wise as, let's say, the Rambam or someone like that. But instead of encompassing all of Torah, he focuses on one subject and he studies thoroughly so he can get more on that subject than the other great rabbis got on spreading his effort on all these different things. And he says the other thing, בחינה שנית, אנחנו האחרונים השגנו הרבה יותר בזמן מועט ממה שהשיגו הם בזמן רב. He says we could get more because they had to lay the foundations. But once they lay the foundations, we come and we build the next layer. As he quotes Rabbi Yishaya Mitrani, it used to be Yishaya Ditrani, it's in Italy called Trani. But now it became, there was a last name Mitrani, a Turkish Mitrani. Right. So it actually means of Trani, of the city of Trani. That someone asked him, he lived in the 13th century. They said, how can you argue with the rabbis of the Talmud, the people who were before you? And he said, he brought in an allegory used by one of the philosophers that was asked the same question. Like, do you think that you're wiser than Plato or Aristo? How dare you argue with them? He said, "Mitzofe yoter merachok, hananas or anan." If you have a very short person and then you have a giant, like let's say Goliath, who could see more? Says the giant can see more. He says, but if you put the short man on the shoulders of the giant, who could see further? The short man. Why? Because this is now. So this is the allegory is that we, even if you think that the later generations know less than the previous generations, but the fact that they are building on their knowledge affords them greater possibilities to see. ואנחנו שמעמיקים מכוח חוכמתם חכמנו לומר כל מה שאנחנו אומרים ולא שונה גדולים מהם. We don't say that we are better or greater than them, but only that because of the cumulative effect of this knowledge, now we see things that they were not able to see. And with that, he concludes the introduction to his book. May we be able to study his Torah and follow in his pathways. Rabbi David Chelouche Zitzal. Amen.